Hello, everyone, and welcome to On the Move, a show where we share transportation sales and marketing success stories. I am Jennifer Carpus-Romain, Executive Director of TMSA, a trade nonprofit educating and connecting marketing and sales professionals inside of transportation and logistics. And today on the show, I have Beth Malik. She is Vice President of Marketing at CMC3, also our board president here at TMSA for a few more months. Today, we are celebrating something special. Check it out. Yeah, we are so excited. It is our 2-year anniversary here on the Move. So for an organization that has been around for over 100 years, you always still want to ebb and flow and change with the times and start things. I've loved being on this podcast and starting this podcast. Some highlights for you guys, for our listeners who are so excited. We've had more than 2,000 downloads, 86 episodes. We are listened to in 65 countries. This is crazy to me because I just feel like I get to sit with my friends and ask them questions. It's a very fun experience for me. One of the most downloaded episodes the most downloaded episode that we ever had was the May 7th, 2025 episode that I did behind the scenes event operations at South by Southwest with Tammy Richter. She was one of our speakers at Elevate in 2025. So she did an episode with me beforehand. And our second most downloaded episode ever was the very first episode that we did back on April 24th, 2024. And that was with you, Beth Malik. And this is your third time. We brought you back for our first anniversary, and now you're here for our second anniversary. Welcome back to the show. How you doing?
So exciting to be here and on the big second anniversary. Yeah, I'm thrilled. So it's always great to be here, Jen.
Absolutely. We love to have you. I think a lot has changed over the past few years in the industry and at TMSA. So from you in your leadership chair, as people might not know, our presidencies last for 2 years at TMSA. So you were president-elect for a year, then you were president for a year. You will go into your chairpersonship come June. But what do you feel feels different right now in this moment in the industry within TMSA as you're kind of sitting in your couple more months as president here?
Yes. Well, a lot has changed the past 2 years. So I would say across the industry, what really stands out is just how much pressure everyone is under right now. The freight market is now in its 4th year of a downturn, the longest any of us have ever experienced, no matter how long you've worked in the industry. So we're seeing margin compression, rate volatility, fuel price pressure, growing complexity with compliance and tariffs, and throw in an increase in freight fraud layered on top of it all. Companies are navigating through more variables, and in many cases, it's made it tough to plan and operate with confidence. Another big change over the past couple of years, I'll say the word that everyone says, has been with AI. So I say AI has accelerated so quickly and now is much more of a part of everyday workflows for sales and marketing versus where we were 2 years ago, which that creates both excitement and opportunity, but also it can create uncertainty depending on what your company's strategy is around AI and how it will be used to impact business results. So, I mean, those are just a couple big changes in the industry. Within TMSA, what feels different to me is how focused we've become in response. And there's more clarity around how we deliver value and support members in a way that's meaningful to how they're actually working today, and how important it is here that the association continues to work to strengthen the industry as a whole. I think those two things are very highlighted versus 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think TMSA, like we talked about even with the podcast, doing this, we understand, hey, this is how a lot of people are getting information. It is a way to highlight our members and what they're doing. So let's start this. And this year we decided to launch the track-based program. And so now everybody who's coming to conference or in our membership gets to choose from company leader, sales practitioner, marketing leader, marketing practitioner. So that way you're getting a more catered experience. I also think, like you said at the beginning, like there's just more pressure on everybody. And as an organization, we're like, well, we can't really think that they're going to sit in our member portal and rewatch videos that are an hour long. Like, even if it's the most valuable content, we have to find a way to make it more digestible, to be more efficient, to let them go to market faster. So with all of that in mind, now we're at the beginning of Q2, partway through the year. What feels most important for TMSA, especially as we're like 6-7 weeks away from Elevate now? What feels most important at TMSA from the presidential chair?
Yeah, well, I think take it up a little level versus the going into the conference, because I think we'll get into that in a little bit later too. But I think most important right now, given the pressure our members and industry are under, is really staying truly member first while keeping the association financially strong. And in this kind of environment, focus and discipline really matter, and that the board and headquarters are aligned on the right priorities, which allows us to adapt as needs evolve. And, I'm also thinking about it as we're going through a leadership transition on several positions on the board. And so that's exciting, but that stability of being both member first and financially strong, keeping those values as we two of our many values as we go into the second half of the year, will help keep us delivering real value without losing the momentum that we've built.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. We have a really strong board of voices that are in different parts of the industry, different pockets. And as we continue to evolve and change, we listen to those voices of the board, also our committee members and our members at large. Like, we're always like, if you guys are willing to share insight, let us know, because I think that is how we continue to stay strong. And obviously we want to stay financially viable too, so that we can continue to be here for our members. With that and the changes that we're making, the more targeted approach, from your perspective, you've been part of TMSA. I think you hit your 10th year on the board prior to taking your presidency. So I think you're in year 12 now, if I'm doing math on the spot. From your perspective of being around the association, knowing listening to members, hearing those stories, why do you think now is the right time to really think about how the organization is delivering learning and content to its members?
Well, you really kind of, hit it right on with the answer there. This really came down, like, now is the right time because it came down to listening to our members. And sales and marketing right now, our roles have become more complex and interconnected. And members told us they wanted to learn in a way that was easier to navigate, more relevant to their day-to-day work, and supportive of career growth at the same time. And Jen, I think I heard you say it once, so I'll quote you, but we really looked at this as it wasn't a risk, but it was a responsibility of the association. So the industry is evolving quickly, and our learning model has to keep pace with that. And we also need to close that knowledge gap as experienced professionals move on, and to make sure people are equipped to succeed in their roles today, not someday.
I agree. And I think we looked at kind of who our most successful members were, and they're people who grew their careers through education, learning, engagement at TMSA, and really taking every piece of the professional development that we offered. But then we kind of sat in that and we're like, but are we telling that story so that everybody understands what you can do here. Like, you can join a committee, you can lead a committee. Like, so many marketing teams are one person or two people. So where are you going to get that experience to lead a team? Well, you can come lead a committee, and that's the first team I ever led, was here at TMSA, and now I lead the whole thing. So really taking that and growing with people in their careers. We do have people that are VP level CMOs. They've been with us for years. They still have education, but we need to make sure that we are offering that. And then we have people that are more junior in their careers. We need to make sure we're targeting that, but then also encouraging them, giving them a space to come speak at a conference, speak to their peers, and telling that story and creating that narrative so they know how to do that effectively and really get the whole team involved. And that was really what we've all been sitting in for the 6 months prior to launching earlier this year, and getting Elevate set up to be kind of the biggest launch of what we're doing with it. And it's really cool. Everything main stage will still be applicable to everyone, but every single one of those tracks has their own networking time, has their own workshop, and has their own breakout. So it's not just like this is a marketing breakout. Nope, there's a marketing leader one and a marketing practitioner one, because those groups of people need different things. I know that CMC3 has its own education and insight component for your customers as well. So obviously, through navigating all this, you've been such a resource of information. But how does that lens then influence how you think about learning and professional development inside associations like TMSA?
Yeah, I would say on that, both SMC3 and TMSA are purpose-driven organizations. And I think of it this way a lot, that we're not for profit, we're for progress. And that's progress of the industry as a whole, not individual companies or individual verticals or shareholders. We believe and know that when the broader industry improves, it lifts everyone involved. And that's what makes our mission different. This around education, education, expert insight, community, they aren't just standalone offerings. They are a connected system designed to help people grow and succeed. We believe that learning works best when people come together and share experiences and learn from each other, and that learning has to evolve with our members and the demands of the industry. So for me, that reinforces that learning has to be practical, role relevant, worth people's time, and ultimately contribute to a stronger, more capable industry.
Absolutely. And you touched on this a little bit before, how sales and marketing roles, especially leadership roles, are kind of intertwining those departments a little bit more. These role-based tracks then better reflect how sales, marketing, leadership actually function inside of organizations today. What do you think is kind of the core component of building a model that reflects what's happening today versus 2, 3, 10 years ago?
Yeah, I think it's reflective because today's sales, marketing, and leadership roles, like across the two, functional and leadership, they aren't siloed in ways they once were. And people are collaborating more closely and often wearing multiple hats. So the role-based tracks reflect that reality by aligning learning to how members actually show up at work, while it still allows them to explore adjacent areas as their responsibilities grow. So, these tracks, they create a more intentional experience that supports both depth in a role and broader professional development.
Mm-hmm. And if a member is sitting, listening, thinking, absorbing everything you're saying, but they're like, okay, that sounds great, but how does this actually help me when I get to work on Monday morning? How would you answer that question?
I think on Monday morning, it helps by giving you clarity and focus. So instead of trying to keep up with everything that's out there, everything and all the education coming at you, you can focus on learning that aligns to where you are and what's most important right now. So that means spending time on content and conversations that help you solve real problems and have more confident discussions and show impact in your role. I think ultimately, if it's not helping you be more effective in how you think, lead, show up either right now or in the near term, like Monday morning, it's not worth your time. And the tracks are designed to guide you to exactly that.
Mhm. Absolutely. And one of the other pieces of feedback that we had gotten from conference attendees was that some of them really liked that they were able to go to the bigger networking spaces and meet everybody. And then other people were like, I wish there was a time just to network with people that are in my same thing because they want to talk about what their pain points on a Monday morning are. And so that's why each track has their own networking space. On Monday morning breakfast, there'll be like track tables. So people will sit with their track, get to know people. You get to play on a trivia team with your track participants, and you get to travel that way through conference, but then also schedule those accountability meetings once you leave Elevate. Make those people your friends and contacts. Like once you get back and you start really thinking about stuff, don't lose the people that you met at conference. That's part of being in the membership and growing. And so I definitely think taking what you learn in person and then taking it with you when you go back to your, real life and taking those contacts will really benefit you long term as well.
Yeah, it's so important to take so that before you start getting Monday morning, getting in there, reflecting on everything that you just learned and connecting, making sure you're connected to everybody that you just met and keep those conversations going and that network going and the learning going between each other. That reflection time after the end of a conference, I think, is so important for everybody.
Absolutely. It's also why we started ending conference with that like 15 minutes of like, who did you meet? Did you make contact with them on LinkedIn? Do you have a meeting with them set? What are 3 takeaways that you learned that you want to bring to the office? And then one thing that we're shifting for this year, we mentioned each of the tracks have their own workshops, but these are no tech workshops. These are workbook based workshops. You will have an actual workbook or sheets, whoever the facilitator wants to do it, but you are in your weeds going through what's going to matter to you. It's not one more presenter giving you top ideas. It's really like driving home and it's one of the last things that we're doing. So everything that you learned over the past 2 days, put that into the work that you're doing today. And that was something I pushed really hard for because we want to develop different types of content. People learn in different kinds of ways. And I also feel like as you round out the second day of a conference, sitting and listening to, like, it's time to take that space to apply too. So I'm really excited to see how people feel about that and what that means long term for how we do education at TMSA. So as we talked about, you'll be rounding out your presidency as we get to Elevate. So you will then be preparing to transition into the chairperson role. So it's not like you're leaving TMSA or the board or anything like that. You still have 2 more years dedicated to the cause. But how do you feel about that shift? How do you feel about your presidency? I mean, as you said, the past 4 years, and from an economic standpoint, have been really hard. So I'm sure when you took your presidency, you thought we would be on an upward swing, and here we are. But as you prepare to transition to that next role, how are you thinking about that shift?
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about the transition through the lens of continuity and support. So I feel like we've built a strong alignment as a board. We've strengthened how we operate and created real momentum. So the focus now is on making sure that carries forward. Moving into the chair role allows me to step back from day-to-day leadership while supporting Don and headquarters and the rest of the board, the next phase of the association. So to me, it's back to about that continuity while creating space for new leadership to lead.
Absolutely. And so this is your 3rd time on the show. So you were the first person to be a 3-peat. I had to think about a new question at the end. And so we've talked about this, and something our current chairperson, who will be rolling out Mark Dirks. He said this to me like when I got this role of executive director, and then when I became president of the nonprofit that I'm involved in and all that stuff, is he always talks about what is the, like, when you're taking that leadership role, what is the legacy that you want to leave behind? So, not that I could ask this as a third question for everyone who comes on the show, but you talked about like what you're looking forward to in taking that chairpersonship. But when we're 5-10 years into the future, how do you want to be, the Beth Malik presidency years to be known for?
Yeah. Well, I think I think I said this once, maybe when we started, maybe in the first episode, or maybe in the first speech when I was president. But I always, in an association with more than 100 years of history, every presidency is just a brief chapter in a much larger story. And there's a big supporting cast behind them of board members and the executive team, the board in general, members, headquarters. So I hope all of those people are always recognized as well, as the reason for things can happen. But I really hope my time is remembered, these 2 years, as a time when TMSA continued its path of modernization while staying grounded in its purpose, and stayed closely connected to our members through a very challenging period for the industry. We've been able to strengthen our systems, our team, how we serve our members, and that work continues, and it will continue. So, my hope is that we've put the right foundation in place so future leaders can keep building in ways that serve our members and strengthen the industry.
I think that's great. Yeah, I mean, looking over the past 2 years, I mean, we weathered a lot of storms, and there's been so much movement, but yeah, we really sit in and we process and we think, but now what comes next? Like, you took your presidency as we were celebrating 100 years. Like, you're the first step into the next 100 years of TMSA, which can feel overwhelming, I'm sure. I mean, I know leading through that time period with Wood, I'm just a little girl. But I do think that continuing to push things forward, but being mindful of change and not changing too fast, that we like, I like how you said, like, but we still stayed like steadfast in being here for our members. Like, that's always what's most important. It's not just change for change's sake, but change to be there for our members, to be able to better target their needs, and hopefully giving them the space to tell us if that's working or not. Because if we can't change or evolve what we don't know isn't working.
Right. Right.
Well, it's such a pleasure to have you back on the show. It's been always a reflective moment when you come on, because it is like that first episode, and it's these big moments of like, you're about to take your presidency, and then you're halfway, and now you're switching into the chairpersonship, and we'll be bringing Don Friedel on into presidency. And then also for me, like, reflecting over at that time, like, I've been here for 4.5 years now. So Don will be like my 4th president, which seems kind of crazy. And then, 2 years anniversary too of On the Move, which is something I love. I love doing this show. I love being able to speak to the leaders in the space. My personal favorite is when I have someone that comes on that tells me it's their first podcast ever.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about professional development, learning skills, letting people know they have a voice somewhere and their perspective matters, and being able to bring that is what keeps me going week to week, to be able to bring that, and to then be able to bring those new perspectives, bring that new knowledge, bring that information to our listeners. Huge win for me from my perspective.
So. Yeah, I mean, you've done an awesome job with it, and I love your passion around it. It's been a tremendous couple of years with the show. So kudos to you, Jen.
Well, thank you. And we will continue to have more episodes weekly. We do take a little bit of a summer break and a break over the winter holidays and stuff, but I like doing a weekly show and staying mostly consistent through it for 2 years is a win in itself, let alone the quality of content that our members and speakers and sponsors and everyone who's agreed to come on the show has allowed us to do. So Thank you again for coming back on the show. We hope you join us June 7th through 9th in Denver for our Elevate conference. You can learn more at events.tmsatoday.org. So
hope to see you there.
Thank you.